El Labyrinto del Fauno, or Pan's Labyrinth, is a fairy tale, and like a fairy tale, it teaches lessons. Though it is a story of two worlds, one fantastical, and one rather grim, El Labyrinto melds the two to make a point. It uses escapism to address reality, rather than ignore it. The fantasy world in El Labyrinto mirrors Ophelia's reality in three key ways: violence or wretchedness, authority, and personal maturity. The film's antagonist, Captain Vidal, representation of fascism, evil, and death, has his fantasy parallel, the Pale Man, but also to some extent, the Faun. The Pale Man shares Vidal's wretchedness, his thirst for violence and destruction of innocence, and even his interior decorating tastes. Similarly, the shoes of past victims of the Pale Man's reference the Holocaust, a memory of fascism and its consequences. The Faun, however, reflects a different facet of Vidal and fascism's personality: unquestioning obedience. When Ophelia disobeys the Faun both times, first with the key, then with her brother, both choices bring trauma. But they are ultimately what set her free. Just like Mercedes, Ophelia's real-world or adult counterpart, rebelling against Vidal for her and Spain's freedom. This comparison means something more. The world of the Faun is not pretty. Ophelia uses this world not so much as an escape, as with her fairy tale books, but as a means to an escape. The gruesomeness of the creatures in the labyrinth merely a reflection of the gruesomeness of Vidal's character. Why do this? Because, to Del Toro, fascism is the ultimate fantasy, an ultimate perversion of innocence. The fascist lying about the state of bread in Spain is a mark of this. It is Ophelia's choices in the fantastical realm that are both mirrored in and directly impact the real world. El Labyrinto wants to show that fairy tales can as much change reality as escape from it. More than that, however, the fantastical serves as a lens for exploring a personal realm, emotional and sexual maturity. Del Toro himself said that this was the sister film to his first Spanish Civil War film, El Espinazo del Diablo, with emphasis on sister. El Labyrinto's feminine energy is visually represented throughout the film, as Ophelia's journey through the labyrinth symbolizes her personal maturation. The most obvious visual hint is the fig tree which Ophelia enters. Del Toro jokes that critics called it a womb with a view. The vaginal motif of the tree continues as Ophelia crawls inside it, eventually leaving from the same opening, covered in the afterbirth of her first task, reborn by her new fate. Her growth continues as, after the first task, the book responds to her question, "What happens now?" only with blood in the shape of a uterus. Note the circular windows behind Ophelia, one of many lunar symbols which hover around her. The blood is both an indicator of Ophelia's mother's miscarriage, as well as a symbol of her incoming adolescence. The grimness of the scene tells us that it is not to be taken lightly. It can be a dangerous thing, but it is unavoidable. The same goes for the charming yet sinister faun. An ancient symbol of nature and virility, the iconography of the faun represents chaos and self-fulfillment, yet implicit in that is also discipline and self-denial. Neither we nor Ophelia can tell if we trust him, yet we must, until we don't. Ophelia encountering and holding her own with the faun can be viewed as her struggle and eventual command of her own sexuality and autonomy. A clever icing on the cake is the constant lunar imagery around Ophelia, as well as Mercedes. The moon, representing womanhood and menstruation, becomes more full as Ophelia completes her tasks. In fact, the faun constantly reminds Ophelia of this.
La luna estará llena en 3 días.
Once, while seductively stroking her face, another connection to her budding sexuality. The full moon here, covered in blood, being a full or mature Ophelia. The faun even tells Ophelia she was born of the moon, not man, and the mark on her shoulder proves it. Ophelia's struggle with her maturity and sexuality, her heroine's journey, intertwines thematically with the struggle against fascism, violence, and authority. Ophelia's errors, mistakes, and failures are necessary as she comes face to face with external and internal threats to her well-being. She must conquer both, or be conquered. Through Ophelia's real death but symbolic maturity, she gains a second rebirth, now passed into adolescence. Notice the framing of this shot, a hand from below coming up covered in blood. In the underworld, Ophelia is given power, a princess, as well as a menstrual red coat and red shoes. As the vaginal fig tree blooms, another symbol of completed maturity and fertility. Ophelia's interaction with the fantastical leads to the death of Vidal and the rebirth of herself. Without her escape into one world, she could never defeat the monsters in the other. But then, are the worlds separate at all?
Visible solo para aquel que sepa dónde mirar.